everybody. I hope that you're all doing well. Today's video is going to be another neighborhood gossip video. Before we jump into that, I want to give a shout out to the coldest water. You guys know the drill with this, and I told you guys in my last video how obsessed I was with this new bottle. Basically for this reason right here. If you're not familiar with the coldest water, basically they sell insulated water bottles to keep your beverages cold for up to 36 hours, 36 plus actually. I will leave the link down in the description box for the website for you guys if you want to check it out for yourself. They have a bunch of different colors, different sizes. You know, some have straws. Mine has a straw. Some have twist-off tops. Go take a look and see if there's anything that you like. I will have a 10% off discount code for you down below, as well as the link to the coldest water giveaway if you want to check that out. So, thank you to the coldest water for working with me in this video. And now we can get started. So, for today's neighborhood gossip video, I thought that I would, instead of talking about this neighborhood here where we live, I would talk about the neighborhood that I grew up in. When I did my mukbang video like 2-3 weeks ago, whenever that was, I filmed it in my grandmother's house. And so I was telling you guys a little bit just about the house itself, our neighbors in that area. I grew up basically living in that house part-time. I still couldn't live there part-time, I feel like, so I know the neighborhood very well. I know the neighbors, some that have left already, some that are still there. I am mostly going to talk about the neighborhood and what it was like when I was a kid, so not really so much now, but when I was a kid. So, you know, my grandmother's house has been in our family for a while. It was the house that my dad was born in, and I grew up going there as well. We lived not too far from there at all, so it's where my dad grew up, where I grew up, my sister for the most part too. And you know, my aunt still lives there, so the house is still in the family, and it's a very nostalgic place, I think. But I will say the neighborhood used to be a little different. It was more, I guess, like family oriented, and I don't know. I get nostalgic thinking about it sometimes because it's definitely not really the same. But I will start with my favorite neighbor. He lived directly next to my grandmother's house. Still lives there. I'm not going to give out his name. But he has a very Italian sounding name. He is Italian. He is from Italy. He would go to Italy from, I think, June or July until September every year. So every summer he would be gone, and he would go to his house that he has in Italy, and then he would come back for the rest of the year. He is the one that, if you watched my story time video, I think I called it like every job I've ever had or something like that, I talked about him. It was his bird that I would watch as my first job ever. When I was like 6 or 7, I got like a little bit of change for, you know, cleaning out his bird's cage and filling it with water and whatever. So that was that neighbor. And he had / still has, but I think he used to get more into it. When I was younger, he had a vegetable garden. I'm talking tomatoes, cabbage, lettuce, like he had so many, the basil, and he would grow them fresh, and he had this green thumb, and it was like legit. It was like a legit garden, and he would always allow us to go over into his backyard whenever we wanted and go pick stuff. And I remember, because we kind of grew tomatoes too in my grandma's backyard when I was younger, but there was never any competition. His would just blow ours out of the water. But that was so nice to, to offer his vegetables to us whenever we wanted. He always lived by himself pretty much, so it was just him. He used to have a cat as well. I forgot the cat's name. It was a black cat, Peachy. I want to say it's Peachy, but I think it was Peachy. And he would say, like, his little Italian accent, Peachy, Peachy, Peachy. And his bird was named Tweety. She was a green parrot. That bird was psycho. That bird was mean, but anyway. He's still there, and I think I started talking about him a little bit in my mukbang video. He now is responsible, like, he feeds all the stray cats in the neighborhood, because there are a lot of them, and he is the one that puts food out for them, but then complains when they don't go away. I think he secretly likes it, because he doesn't have any more pets, and he lives by himself, so I think he likes that they come around. And they're so comfortable on his property now that during the summer they'll lay out on his porch and just sunbathe the stray cats, because they feel comfortable there and they know that he feeds them. What else can I say about him? He is very into opera, and he loves going to the opera even now to see shows. He is much older, so he doesn't work. I believe he used to be a teacher, but he doesn't work now, so he's home pretty much every day. I'll see him occasionally go out to the store, but he doesn't stay out very long. And he has literally seen me grow up. Like, he's known me my whole life, and I see him all the time when I come home from work and I go straight to my aunt's house. He'll be out on his porch, and we always end up talking about the weather somehow. Like, if it's a really hot day, he'll be like, can you believe how hot it is? It's so hot, it's too hot. Or the same thing, like vice versa, if it's cold, or now that the leaves are starting to fall, like, he's out there all the time just sweeping the leaves. Can you believe all the leaves? He's precious, and he's always in like dress pants, slack pants, and like a button-up shirt, always, every day. Like, he will not just wear a t-shirt. Like, he's got that old-fashioned kind of feel to him, so he's always kind of dressed very nicely, button-down collared shirt. Even in the summer, it'll just be a short sleeve button-down collared shirt. So he is precious. He's kind of like family. So, very big fan of his. Directly across the street from my grandmother's house, there used to be an elderly couple. Again, I don't want to give out any names, even though they're not alive anymore, but I don't know. But they were an elderly couple. It was just them two that lived there. And I remember, like, I was young when they were in their 90s already, so they were very old. And the husband died when I was very young. I remember him though, and he and my grandfather, I believe it's kind of hard for me to remember because I was like 5, but he was still alive when my grandfather was alive. My grandfather died when I was 6, and I want to say he died around the same time, of old age. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if he had, I don't remember what fully happened to him the day that he died, but it happened outside of his house. And I remember my dad was there, and I think he fell because whatever was happening to him, he didn't feel well and he fell. And my dad was there and either caught him or either way, my dad was there with him until the ambulance came. So yeah, my dad was there for that, which is sad, but honestly, thank God he was there. You know, they were so old, and I don't think their kids lived too close to the area. So my dad kind of volunteered to always, you know, help them when they needed something, if they needed something moved, or if they needed something from the store, you know, whatever. Which was very nice. And my aunt too, because they lived right across the street. And then so she kind of lived by herself for a while, I think, and then I think she had an aide come stay with her. And they were both just so cute. They would dress up. She would have a skirt and a nice blouse and like a cardigan on every day. She had her white curly hair. I think she had glasses. And she walked like a little lady, like hunched over, but their house was so cute and everything, and their house was so old, like I'm talking antiques. The television set, like everything was so old. And I don't fully remember why, again, because I was young, but there were a couple times where I would go over and I would be in her house for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe my aunt would just take me over there and we would just go for like a visit, so she wasn't by herself. I don't fully know. But I remember it started to get hard for her because she was getting old and she was by herself, and there were a couple of times when she fell when she was home, and I think there were a couple of times when my dad would have to go and you know, help her up if she fell or whatever. And then it's very sad, I think at a certain point, she was still alive, but I think her kids put her in a nursing home, and then we never really knew what happened to her after that. I think it's safe to assume she's no longer alive, but yeah, we never really knew what happened to her. Like, we didn't know when she died or anything. Her and my grandmother were very close friends, I think. And it was very sad. Yeah, we never really knew what happened to her after that. And then her kids sold her house, and then that was it. And now there are new people living there now. They're very nice, but yeah. What else can I talk about? Down the street, and they still live there to this day, is a family, and the like grandmother of that family was like best friends with my grandmother, like very good friends. She was younger. She was a good like 15-20 years younger than my grandma. But they would come over all the time, and it's like a 3-story house, and there's like the grandmother, and then she has 2 kids, and her son lives on the top floor with his wife and 2 kids, I believe, and then her daughter lives there, and then there's a basement. Yeah, so, and her husband obviously lived there too before he passed away. But I spent a lot of time there as a kid, and they spent a lot of time at my grandma's house as well. I'm realizing now that this isn't really a gossip video. I'm literally just telling you about the neighborhood that I grew up in, but we're gonna call it a neighborhood gossip just for the heck of it. So anyway, I spent a lot of time there because that grandmother had 2 grandkids. One was a year younger than me, and then her brother was 2 or 3 years older than me, so we were all kind of around the same age, and we used to hang out all the time. They never lived there, and they don't live there now, but you know, that was their grandma's house, so they would go over all the time. I think, you know, during the summer their grandmother would watch them while the parents were at work and whatever. I had the biggest crush on him, on the grandson. He was a little bit older than me. I loved older boys when I was younger. I really did. I like guys my age or younger did not interest me. Like, I'm talking like as a 5-6 year old girl, like all the older boys I was like obsessed obsessed with. Which is funny because now my boyfriend is 3 years younger than me now. But, yeah. So I had the biggest crush on him, oh my goodness. And, you know, I remember, I have like memories of like the three of us playing in my room, and I would always want to sit really close to him. And I have a memory one day my dad brought me into the kitchen, picked me up and sat me on the counter, and I was like, what's up with you sitting so close to the kid? He said his name, and I was like, I don't know. I can assure you that I knew. But anyway, it's funny now, I've seen a picture of him recently, and I'm pretty sure I'm like taller than him now. But anyway, awesome kids, loved hanging out with them. And they knew my cousins too, because they would come to my birthday parties and my cousins were there. So, you know, it was like all one big happy family. I think the girl now just got engaged. We're friends on Facebook, but I literally haven't spoken to her in years, like years. But I'm pretty sure she just got engaged, so good for her. And you know, the grandmother of that family, my grandmother's death hit her very, very hard because it was one of her best friends. And it's very sweet. They'll go with my aunt sometimes to go visit my grandmother's grave because they like to do that, and it's very sweet. And that grandmother's daughter went to high school with my aunt, so they've known each other since they were kids. So that family is just very close to ours, and even to this day, they'll, like, the grandmother will come over to my grandmother's house to hang out with my aunt, and, you know, I think being in my grandmother's house kind of, you know, like, reminds her of my grandmother, and, you know, she maybe, like, feels her presence there. I mean, I know I do. When I'm at my grandmother's house, it reminds me of her all the time, so I get it. They're very sweet people, very, very sweet family. What else can I tell you? Well, now let me tell you a little bit about what it's like now. So since then, everyone else but that family that I just told you about has either sadly passed away or moved away. There was another family on the other side of my grandmother's house that lived there since my dad was born. They just moved. But, you know, we've known them my whole life, my dad's whole life. My aunt used to babysit their son when they were like, she was 10 and he was 5 or something. So there were a select few families that were just like the OGs and were very close and everything, but pretty much everybody has moved. And the neighborhood just isn't as good anymore. Like, now we'll get into the gossip part. There are parties that take place down the street. There's one end of the street where our family friends live that's like still relatively nice and quiet. You go the other direction and it's like pure chaos. There is a house that was built a couple years ago down there, and it's pretty big, and they just have parties like until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, music blaring. I'm pretty sure that there's some sort of business happening there. I am pretty sure that they charge a fee to get into this party. Like, it's like a business, and it's ridiculous. Like, I'm all down for have your backyard parties and have your fun, especially during the summer. Like, that's what backyards are for. I get it, but it is like absurdly loud, and they invite so many people that I'm not exaggerating. The entire block, cars will be double parked. So like regular parallel parking on the side of the street, but then right next to that, there's double parked the whole way, so blocking people's driveways, blocking people's cars all night until they leave at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I know this because I sleep over there a lot. It's like 10 minutes from my job. And so I wake up at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work. And so I'm awake when the party is still happening and when people are slowly starting to go home. And it's absurd, like the amount, like the cups in the street, the smell of weed. Like, listen, do what you want to do. Like, I'm not gonna judge you, have your fun, but like it's ridiculous. And the funny thing is, and by funny I mean not funny, I have been awake, I have gone to like walk to my car to go to work, and I will see a cop drive by and not do anything. So they see all the double parked cars, they hear the obnoxiously loud music, and they just drive by and they don't do anything. What? It blows my mind. And you know, you have drunk people in the street screaming at each other. The other day, here's some gossip for you. The other day, like 3 days ago, I was going to work. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, and I hear 3 people screaming outside of my grandmother's house, screaming at each other. It was a guy and 2 girls, and they are standing right in front of my car. And basically what was happening was, one was the girlfriend and one was like the side piece, if you know what I'm saying. And they both found out about each other, and they were just going back and forth. And one of the girls, especially when she saw me, because I was gonna wait just in case, and I was like, hey, let me give them their space. But I was like, 1, I gotta get to work. 2, now I see what they're fighting over, so like, whatever. One of the girls, as soon as she saw me, she started screaming at them. Like, she kept screaming, walk and talk, because she didn't, want to be fighting right next to me. I walked outside, I locked the door, I walked straight to my car and pretended that I didn't even see them. I pretended that they weren't even there, went about my business, and then they eventually started walking, but they were, yelling at him because he was in the wrong. So yeah, eventually they walked away and I drove away, and that was the end of that. But that's the kind of stuff that goes on sometimes, I mean, I've seen some things going to work in the mornings, and then sometimes my dad and his wife come home very late from work, and have encountered other drunk people too. Like, one came over and started banging on the hood of their car when they were trying to park. It's not the neighborhood that it once was, which is sad. But we do have a couple of OGs that are still there. My favorite little Italian man right next door that I love. But yeah, it's unfortunate that it's not the same. But anyway, so that really, it wasn't. Also, that's Maya walking around on the wooden floor, if you hear that little pitter patter. But that is just a rundown basically of the neighborhood that I grew up in, and a little taste of what it's like now. But I hope that you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next